right? Like you can say this can potentially be an entry. You can easily have said, okay, you know what? This works, but I'm gonna do it swing wise, where instead of it this engulfing the second candle, I needed to close below that swing point. So here. Welcome back to my channel. My name is William Sanchez from Code from Traders. This is the Wednesday video where I actually create the TradingView code and test it live. So this is the continuation of the Monday's video where I actually tested this strategy 100 times and had pretty good results. I may put it kind of here so you can kind of like see it. This is the actual strategy itself for this video. So this is very simple, same one from the first video. It is as follows. The blue line is the VWAP and the orange line is the 50 EMA. Those are the two things we're using here, nothing more, nothing less. This is all. So the way the entry logic works is the price needs to pull back into the 50 EMA. Kind of, let's say for this one, this is a great example. This is where I take the trade. It needs to touch the 50 EMA. And then the very next candle needs to engulf that candle. So in this scenario, how it engulfs it, then it takes a trade. Once the trade is taken, the actual stop loss is about a few ticks below. I actually have a setting where you can kind of change that if you want. But the take profit is 1.5 times the stop loss. Here you can kind of see how much you win or lose per trade. Because I put it, it varies depending on you put in the settings. But ideally, this is the strategy in itself. It's pretty simple. This strategy can be modified as you wish. I will give you some tips as we go through the actual indicator itself. And if you guys have any questions or even interested in purchasing this indicator, you can go to my Etsy store where I do sell this code and all the other codes that I create and show on the video. Yeah, if you have any questions, put it in the comments below and tell me what you may want to see as a backtesting or indicator creation in future videos. All right, so with that said, let's actually see the results for the 3-minute, because the strategy manually that I did on Monday optimized really for the 3-minute, or at least I like to trade on the 3-minute. Unfortunately, it does not do that well, the actual indicator itself. In this scenario, it's taking 284 trades. It's doing definitely almost triple what we did in the video before. In the video, it did amazing. But of course, this is a trend following strategy. If there's a lot of consolidation, of course, you're going to lose, right? Or if there's not strong momentum, it's not gonna really do much, as you can see. Little thing like this still counts, because these trades still count for me, because even though this candle here didn't really touch the EMA, I still consider if the actual engulfing candle closes, but still on the other side of the EMA, it did really, like barely did it, but it did. So this is still considered a trade for me. So as you can see, a lot of these are losers as well. All right, so you do see quite a bit of them. All right, so you get a lot when things are trending like this one. This was an unfortunate loss because it's a little over, but this is kind of the thing I've seen. It performs really well on the minute. Like the minute is not that bad. And you can kind of play around with the time frames. All right, you can kind of play around with the actual pairs as well. I do NASDAQ because that's the one I like to trade. But let me go through the settings themselves. So here I put the 50 EMA as the length itself. And then the VWAP is just a normal VWAP. And I did put the requirement where the VWAP, where the EMA has to be above the VWAP for longs and below the VWAP for shorts. So you can remove this. If you remove it, then it doesn't require that logic. It can perform better or worse. In this scenario, I think it did worse. No, I actually did better. Actually did better. But I also added a buffer. The reason I added this buffer, let's see if I can find an example. So 1, 2, 3. These are 3 perfect trades, technically. But the issue is, it never touched the EMA. So I added this buffer here to still potentially account for them. This is something you guys would want to update and test yourself, and however you would want it. Right, you can go play around with it. I would say this here is how many ticks away. There you go. Oh, this was a lot more. Okay. This is a lot more than the tick count. So then we'll put 200. Oh, no, it's not going to take more than one because I did put the rule. I put the rule here, only one trade at a time. But as you can see, you can actually update this and it can kind of give you a bigger buffer for these things. And then, of course, that can change, you know, the potential trade. You see this one actually took this trade. Oop. This took this trade, but look how far it is. But you can play around with it as much as you want, but let's leave it back to its default that I put 10. And then, yeah, so that's what that setting does. Let's kind of keep going down through it. Of course, longs and shorts, you can remove this and it'll only take shorts. And then if you remove the shorts, it'll only take longs. Here, we already explained it. It is just the one trade per, you know, per move. If you were to remove this, it will take multiple trades if they happen still within the same trading window, right? So for example, if we would have had another trade in this trade, if we would have gotten another signal during this, you would have seen it again. It's not really beneficial because if you trade futures, usually futures is what I trade mostly. If you trade futures, it's not going to take two separate trades. Well, yes, it'll take two separate trades, but it's going to kind of combine and make the average of both of them, which is not really that good unless you're just doing like a really big size or you kind of like trailing your take profits kind of thing. But that's why I don't really test it like that. Let's continue. I'm going to leave this back on the one. Here's a stop loss buffer. So for example, let's use this one as an example. The way I like to put the stop loss is slightly above the highest in this scenario for a short. The high is between the two candles. Not at the high, but slightly above it. So this here changes that. Let's say I do 200. That should be an extreme example and I should change it. So you see how it went much higher? So you can kind of control that buffer as you wish. I like to do slightly above, because mind you, the smaller the stop loss, also the smaller the take profit, because it is 1.5 times that. And then that easily goes into the next section, which is the actual TP. Here I have where you can kind of change it. I just changed it to 2 and made it much bigger, or you can change it. If you want a higher win rate, you can do lower. You can do lower. You can do lower here, right? You can do the 1-to-1, and you can kind of play like that. So again, it depends on how you would want to prefer, or you prefer how to do it. Let's put this back to default. So I try to make it as very optimal, so you can trade it as you wish. Next, here's the actual sizing piece. Right now, I only have that it only takes one contract at a time, or you can do, or if you do stocks, it'll be one stock. Or you can do risk percentage, which would be this here. So if you want to risk 500 per trade, you can do that. This will change. And then the actual take profit would be the 1.5 from there. For testing purposes, it's usually better the risk. This can also be based off if you trade manually. This strategy is really good if you trade manual. It's actually better trading manually than actual bot itself. But you do need to add a few things to it to really optimize it. And then I can go over that a little bit at the end. But there's definitely ways you can optimize it. This is one of my favorite strategies, but I do add other pieces to it to make it the best possible. I did also added this to break even. If you would want to add that part, you can. I just have it there on all my codes because I know there's some people who like to use the break even logic. I personally don't, but it is there. And then I also added like the daily stop loss. Like if you're doing this for a prop firm, you can say, no, I don't want to lose more than 1,500 for that day. Call it a day for me and take no more trades. And then same thing, it's just like, this is for prop firm purposes really. But yeah, so this is the actual strategy itself. So like I said, it did not perform very well on the 3-minute that I tend to like to trade it on regardless. It did do okay, break even. So it unfortunately did not do that well. The actual manual testing did better. So what I say that would make this strategy infinitely better is you need something like a volume indicator. Or if you're visually seeing what's happening, you do not want the VWAP to be flat like this. You should not want it to be flat. You need some actual like slope. Like you see, these are the ones that lose all the time. Look how flat the VWAP is. I wouldn't take this. These are horrible trades. I would not take them manually. But the strategy itself won't really recognize those. In scenarios where things do trend more, see, it's starting to slope up a little bit, which is great. Ideally, you want a little more. But even a little bit does perform better. This was a good TP. This one was great. This is why I said manual is usually better, because this big candle, or you can also call it elephant candle, is much bigger than any of the ones over here, except for these two. This can trick you. It would have to require a lot of momentum to really push past that. But these are small things that manually you would see and you wouldn't take. There's more reasoning behind your entry when you do it manually. But you can easily add, like one of my favorite indicators, where is it? This one here. Is it this one? Yes. So the WADA Alta Explosion, this one's actually one of my favorite ones. You can add that. And you can kind of say, okay, is this an actual good entry? Because you may have scenarios like this. See, even though this was a winning trade, this has, the way this indicator works, it tells you the kind of volume momentum it has. In this scenario, is a short momentum. I wouldn't, if you go based on this, you wouldn't have taken this trade. Unfortunately, it did take the trade and it won, but that's one of those cases here. And you see, like it works. The other thing would just be like support and resistance, common sense, right? You don't really want to take this if it broke the high. So there's a lot of ways to use it. This is more of a starting point for anyone. Same as the MACD. The MACD actually performed well on both the manual and the bot creation or the strategy creation. They're both good, but they're just one piece of the puzzle. You need multiple things, multiple confluences to make it work. This works better manually because you can determine visually what is happening, right? Like you can say, this can potentially be an entry. You can easily have said, okay, you know what? This works, but I'm gonna do it swing wise, where instead of this engulfing the second candle, I needed to close below that swing point. So here would have been an entry, right? This is the basis of creating something larger. This is not to give you a strategy that works and solves what you need. With that said, if there's any questions, comments below. If you have any suggestions for future videos of strategies to test, let me know as well. Like I said, all these codes that I create will be on my Etsy store. If you are interested in any custom code, you can reach out to me on Fiverr as well. I love to do codes and I love to help traders as much as I can. And the Friday's video, because I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Friday's video will be this same exact strategy, but a NinjaTrader version of it. I prefer NinjaTrader because it's very automated, but it's a little bit more robust to get it working. Again, thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you have a great day and talk to you on Friday.